Hi everyone, it's Helen Hotai here, founder of From Help, and we are on the smarttraveller.gov.au website, and we are doing a Smart Traveller advice update for Belgium, Samoa, Georgia, Cambodia, Ukraine, Vietnam, Guatemala, United Kingdom, and Russia. So let's get straight into starting with Belgium. Now, as you can see here, it was updated on the 18th of March and is still current as at today being the 19th of March. So the update reads, COVID-19 restrictions have eased across Belgium. You're no longer required to present a COVID-safe ticket to access certain venues. You must wear a face mask if you're 12 years and older on public transport and when visiting healthcare facilities. The EU has categorised Australia as a dark red zone. If you're a non-resident of Belgium entering from a dark red zone outside the EU and Schengen area, you're required to present a full COVID-19 vaccination or recovery certificate. And you must have a full COVID-19 vaccination certificate. If not, you can only travel to Belgium if you're a citizen or resident of an EU Schengen area country, or if you're travelling for an essential purpose. You must complete a passenger locator form, PLF, if you're travelling from Australia, so see the travel information below. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Belgium due to the risk of terrorist attack. And again, the advice levels is exercise a high degree of caution in Belgium due to the risk of terrorist attack. And then there's a note there. So if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. But that is the latest travel advice update from the Australian government for Belgium. Next, we'll go to Samoa. Okay, Samoa, let's have a look. So again, this was updated on the 18th of March and it's still current as at today, being the 19th of March. And it reads, following confirmation of community transmission of COVID-19, Samoa will be at alert level 3 under state of emergency orders from midnight on the 18th of March. This will include a nationwide lockdown and there will be limited access to goods and services during this period. Samoa's borders continue to be closed to all travellers from Australia. Commercial flights, including repatriation flights between Samoa and Australia, are suspended until further notice. Australians wishing to leave Samoa can contact the Australian High Commission at apia.admin@dfat.gov.au to receive information on current flight restrictions. And if you've had a positive COVID-19 PCR test in the last 6 months, you won't be allowed to travel to Samoa unless you meet strict criteria. And again, the Australian government does advise reconsider your need to travel to Samoa due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, the advice level, reconsider your need to travel to Samoa. Now, if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Samoa. Next, we'll go to Georgia. Now, for Georgia, it says, now this was updated on the 18th of March and is still current as at today being the 19th of March. And it reads, Georgia's land borders are open with the exception of the Azerbaijan land border, which at this time requires special permission from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan to cross. Now, the Georgian land border with Russia near Stepantsminda, Kazbegi, is open. Entry is unrestricted for travellers who have documented proof of having received a full dose of COVID-19 vaccination, and see the travel information below. And the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Georgia overall due to the impacts of COVID-19 and higher levels apply. Now again, exercise a high degree of caution and take note of that note there. And then it says do not travel to South Ossetia and Abkhazia. So take note of those notes there. And if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. Now that is the latest travel update from the Australian government for Georgia. Next, we'll go to Cambodia. Cambodia, okay, so it was updated on the 18th of March and it's still current as at today being the 19th of March. Now, Cambodia has recommenced the Visa on Arrival program. So if you can show proof of vaccination, you don't need any pre-departure or on-arrival COVID-19 tests. You can travel to Cambodia via air, land and sea. and unvaccinated travellers are still required to quarantine for 14 days. And the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Cambodia due to the impacts of COVID-19. Again, advice levels, exercise a high degree of caution in Cambodia. Now, if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Cambodia. Next, we'll go to Ukraine. As you can see here, Ukraine conflict. So military action is underway in Ukraine. So if you're in Ukraine, shelter in place until it's safe to depart. And these are the recommendations here from the Australian government. So I will leave links in the description box below for you to read. So have a look. Let's have a look at the latest travel update. Now, this was updated on the 18th of March and is still current as at today being the 19th of March. And it reads, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is ongoing. The security situation continues to be volatile and is deteriorating rapidly. Heavy fighting, including bombardments, explosions, and missile launches, is ongoing throughout Ukraine. There have been many civilian casualties. Foreigners have been killed and may be targeted, including in areas not directly affected by fighting. Do not travel to Ukraine. There is a real risk to life. Now, if you're in Ukraine, shelter in a place until you judge it's safe to depart. Seek shelter in a hardened structure away from windows. Review your personal security plans. Be alert and aware of your surroundings. Continue to monitor advice on Smart Traveller and reputable local and international media. Where it is safe to do so, you should leave Ukraine, and you're responsible for your own safety and that of your family. You need to carefully consider the safest means and route to depart. Roads may be crowded, exposed to military action, or have damage, including to bridges and facilities. Check the transport routes and entry requirements for where you are travelling and see the safety information below. Additional restrictions or changes to entry requirements to other destinations could be imposed suddenly. So plan for delays at land border crossings. Expect some congestion on routes, at checkpoints and lengthy queues. Make sure you have an adequate supply of food, water, medication and fuel. And use your judgment to decide the best time and safest means of exit. Australian government officials have been deployed to eastern Poland, Romania and Moldova to provide consular assistance to Australians departing Ukraine. Our ability to provide consular assistance in Ukraine is extremely limited in these circumstances, and the Australian government will not be able to evacuate you from Ukraine. If you have significant concerns for your welfare or that of another Australian, then contact the Consular Emergency Centre on 1300 555 135 in Australia or +61 2 6261 3305 outside of Australia. Contact your family and friends to let them know your location, situation and any travel plans. Don't wait. Communication infrastructure is likely to become damaged or blocked. If you're in Ukraine, register with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade's registration portal for Australian citizens in Ukraine and see the safety section below for details on how to register. So keep your registration details up to date to ensure that the Australian governments are aware of your situation and can provide you with the latest information. The conditions in Ukraine are changing rapidly due to Russia's invasion. This means local rules listed in the travel advice may not reflect the current situation, so follow the advice of local Ukrainian authorities. And the Australian government does continue to advise do not travel to Ukraine overall due to the volatile security environment and military conflict. And then other levels do apply in some other areas. And again, advice levels: do not travel to Ukraine and do not travel to Crimea and the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. And if you do scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel update from the Australian government for Ukraine. Next, we will go to Vietnam. Vietnam. Okay, so this was updated on the 18th of March and is still current as at today being the 19th of March. Vietnam has reopened its borders to all foreign travellers who meet visa and health requirements. Now, regular international commercial flights, including to Australia, are operating. To travel to Vietnam, you must have evidence of a negative COVID-19 PCR test taken within 72 hours of departure to Vietnam. Alternatively, you can have evidence of a negative rapid antigen test administered by a medical professional within 24 hours of departure to Vietnam. Now, all COVID cases and close contacts will need to isolate. Travel around the country may be challenging. Entry and social distancing measures vary between provinces, and these measures may change at short notice and may impact your ability to travel and access essential services. So follow the advice of local authorities. Monitor the Australian Embassy's social media for major updates. Now, as you can see here, the Australian government does advise reconsider your need to travel to Vietnam due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, the advice level, reconsider your need to travel to Vietnam due to the impacts of COVID-19. And if you scroll down below, there is more information for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Vietnam. Next, we'll go to Guatemala. Guatemala. Okay, so let's have a see. 18th of March, it was updated and it's still current today, being the 19th of March. And it reads, entry requirements for Guatemala depend on your age, vaccination status, and COVID-19 test results. So see the travel information below. Expect movement restrictions, enforcement of mask wearing, limits on social gatherings, and other sanitary measures in public spaces. And the Australian government does advise reconsider your need to travel to Guatemala due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, advice level, reconsider your need to travel. Now, if you do scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read, and that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Guatemala. So we'll go to United Kingdom next. United Kingdom. Okay, let's have a look. So it was updated on the 18th of March and is still current as at today, being the 19th of March. Now it reads, all COVID-19 travel restrictions in the UK have been removed, regardless of your vaccination status. So you no longer need to take any COVID-19 tests before or after arrival or fill in a UK passenger locator form. You won't need to quarantine on arrival, and other countries still have COVID-19 rules in place, which may affect your journey. Yay, that's good news for those travelling to the UK. Wonderful. Okay, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in the UK due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, advice levels, exercise a high degree of caution. Now, if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read, and that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for United Kingdom. Last of all, we'll go to Russia. Russia, let's have a look. Okay, so this was updated on the 18th of March and is still current as at today, being the 19th of March. And it reads, do not travel to Russia due to the security environment and military conflict with Ukraine. If you're in Russia, leave immediately using the limited commercial options available or private means if it's safe to do so. The Australian government has authorised the voluntary departure of dependents of Australian embassy staff in Moscow. The security situation could deteriorate further with little warning. The Russian parliament has passed laws that severely inhibit free speech related to the current situation, imposing restrictions on the publishing and distribution of information related to the Russian armed forces and any military operations. Remain vigilant and avoid any protests or demonstrations and commenting publicly on political developments. Non-participating bystanders can draw scrutiny from security forces and have been detained. Given the substantial police presence and mass arrests, you should avoid demonstrations and any demonstration-related activities. Russian authorities may enforce local laws in an arbitrary manner. If you're in Russia, register your whereabouts on the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade's registration portal for Australian citizens in Russia and see the safety section for details on how to register. Keep your registration details up to date, ensure we're aware of your situation and can provide you with the latest information. Continue to monitor Smart Traveller for updates, and if despite the advice you remain in Russia, you may be affected by shortages of essential products and services. Commercial travel routes between Russia and Europe have been impacted by measures taken in response to military action in Ukraine. A number of Russian airports are now closed to the public, and if you're planning to depart to Russia, confirm with your transport operator that services are still operating. There are reports of non-Russian credit and debit cards being declined in Russia, so be prepared with alternate means of payments should your cards be declined. If you decide to stay in Russia, review your personal security plans. You're responsible for your own safety and that of your family, so make sure your travel documents are up to date, and if you have significant concerns for your welfare or that of another Australian, contact the Consular Emergency Centre on 1300 555 135 in Australia or +61 2 6261 3305 outside of Australia. And the Australian government does advise do not travel to Russia overall due to the security environment and military conflict in Ukraine. And again, advice levels: do not travel to Russia and do not travel to North Caucasus. And that is the latest travel update from the Australian government for Russia. And that's the latest travel update from the Australian government for those countries. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Keep safe wherever you are in the world. It's Helen Hotai, founder of Form Help, signing out.